After watching PlayStation 4's launch event today, 3 years ago, I sat back in my house, skipped school just to watch the Xbox One launch event. Now this was a huge moment.
Microsoft confirmed that they will hold a press event on May 21st at their headquarters in Redmond, Washington to, quote, give you a real taste of the future.
I'm going to talk about the launch event and how Xbox has done in the past 3 years to sort of change their brand, but overall, I just remember this launch event so well. There were so many things going on. It was so exciting. Xbox at the time was the dominant force. You had, of course, Xbox 360, which had sold millions and millions and had been the dominant force above other game consoles at the time. Of course, you can mention Wii, but overall, it was Xbox's game. They had revolutionized the online ecosystem. They had done a lot, and so what they were going to do here and now was huge. What they were going to name it was also a huge priority. It was a big deal, right? There were many different names that floated around, not just in my head, but in millions of people's heads. Just calling it Xbox, calling it Xbox 720, Xbox Infinity was a big name. I honestly wish they could have just stuck it to Xbox. When the countdown time ended and everything went live toward the event, it all started, and
you idiots.
That event was garbage.
They proceed to show me a voice-controlled remote
TV experience. TV and movies, TV. Xbox, watch TV. TV.
Overall, this event was huge, but huge in a negative way, right? Like, going off of that event, you had a lot of backlash. So, going out, this launch event was awful. This premiering of this new console focused on the Kinect and the multiple uses of it. And of course, there's that still hugely infamous video of them talking about sports, television, not catering to gamers, but catering to all other markets. And that really bit Microsoft in the butt. But what else bit Microsoft in the butt was the fact that they didn't mention a lot of things that they were going to implement into the system. Just slid it under the rug.
Question 2. Next? Can I trade in my game that I bought new?
Maybe. Depends on the publisher, right?
Yeah.
So publishers will dictate whether or not you can trade a game. So if you buy a Ubisoft game, Ubisoft will say yes or no, you can trade this, and yes or no, you can trade it at this particular outlet at retail.
We've also got new information about what happens if you want to lend your friend a game.
Oh, you can't at all.
You can't lend it, but you can give it. So
yes.
Say I have a game. Oh, another thing. So I've got a game. I want to give it to my friend Mitchie here. We're not Xbox Live friends, so we can't. You have to be Xbox Live friends for 30 days at least, and then you can give that game. So I can now give that game to Mitch.
Right, because all these features started popping up into news articles and started popping up online. Right, the always online functionality of this console, the forced 24-hour check-in was a huge issue. The DRM policy, no-use games, the trading methods were hugely unpopular. There was just this big backlash from this. It was just such an insane thing to watch because Microsoft, like I said, had been such a dominant force. You would think that they were for the gamers, but more and more, as we started rolling toward E3, it just became this really big snowball effect of just things that were going wrong with this console, things that just were not for gamers, right? The necessity of having a new console from Xbox was really just kind of dropping, and E3 was just this big, bombastic event. Right, E3 in 2013 was the biggest and most bombastic event I've ever watched, hands down, because there was so much controversy. Would PlayStation implement the same features that Xbox was going to implement? Were they going to go always online? DRM policies, 24-hour check-in, all that stuff. That was the big deal. And Microsoft, of course, they came out at E3 and they did a really good show. Honestly, if PlayStation hadn't done the assault on them, they had a great games lineup. Like they mentioned before, they were going to go strong with games, and they did. There were tons of games, not just for 360, not just for 360, but there were lots of games for coming to Xbox One. There were lots of games expected to arrive on Xbox One, and Xbox 360 had a handful of titles for it. So it wasn't like Xbox One wasn't in a bad shape, but it was just that all the features were going wrong, or just go negative and just push people away.
And I think people could have arguably gone the other way if we didn't do it, and fortunately we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. Stick with 360. That's your message. If you don't, like it.
If you have zero access to the
and of course,
internet.
PlayStation had that big event where they just said, "Screw you. We're for the gamers, right? Our price is lower." They came, of course. Xbox came out $500 price tag. PlayStation came out $400 price tag. None of the features that came out. It was a big event. I'm not explaining this in. It just.
I don't know. So where do we begin?
You have to. It was backloaded. This whole thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The audience in the PlayStation room was so insane, and there was just this feeling, of course, and I know this is an Xbox video, but there was just this feeling that Xbox was doomed, right? This was just the nail in the coffin. This is just something that really resonated with so many people, including myself. Like, this changed the entire atmosphere for what would be this console generation.
I'm Jamin Hatfield, and this is IGN News. Microsoft has announced a complete reversal of its restrictive Xbox One DRM policies. This means there is no more always online requirement, and you won't have to check in with Microsoft servers every 24 hours.
This was the turning point. The big issue still was the Kinect. I think people were expecting the Kinect to go, and Don Matrick was stuck on the Kinect. Just before the launch of Xbox One, I think Don Matrick left. I think that was either before or just after Don Matrick left. And Phil Spencer, of course, a little bit later on took on the mantle. But overall, Xbox One's launch still had a huge favoring, had a huge amount of fans on it. But overall, this thing was really just assaulted for being at such a price tag. Xbox One with Kinect, the Kinect really destroyed this system. That was a big deal. The Kinect's $100 extra price tag really hurt Xbox One in that first holiday season and really gave PlayStation the dominant force to keep pushing forward and really allowed PlayStation to get that where we are now. PlayStation, I think, is at 40-some million consoles sold. It's the fastest selling system of all time because of that negative backlash at the beginning. I think that is the driving force. And I think Xbox has done a solid job recuperating themselves, returning themselves back, and just putting themselves back into the place that they need to be, right? Like Phil Spencer has really solidified Xbox as a strong Xbox One, at least as a strong system, right? We got the backwards compatibility last year. We had all of these new games coming every single year. They kept pushing out exclusives. This was a great time. This is a solid system. The level of exclusives that came out within 2013 to 2015 were phenomenal compared to PlayStation's lineup. The cool thing about Xbox after the launch was that they kept adding features to keep people interested in their console. As controversial as the system was, it was still a console that you probably wanted to buy after all the things were replaced. Like, you still kind of I remember years, 2014, 2015, I was still on the fence because Xbox could re-implement these ideas back into their hardware any time that they wanted to. And that was always on the fence for me. I think the turn away from consumers or gamers themselves was a real backlash, and people are probably softening up to Xbox now. It's been enough years where at the $299 price tag, Xbox One feels like a much stronger competitor, feels like a much healthier competitor without all those negative features and the backwards compatibility. They've really tailored themselves as a gaming box. Like, there are very few conversations talking about television anymore. There are very few things that mention the multimedia usage of it, the computer side of it. Windows 10 was a huge plus for it. The fact that you can stream from Xbox One or just through your Wi-Fi network to a computer is a huge thing that I know that Sony was second to. I think Xbox One is a system that will go down in history, of course, as a huge deal. Xbox One did a lot and has done a lot for this generation. We've seen a lot of technological innovation around this console. We've seen a lot of just feature set that we wouldn't expect And if you count it all up, it still is just another strong system, another strong competitor that just hasn't sold all that well because of its mistakes in the beginning. And maybe we'll see a resurgence later on, just like we saw with PlayStation 3 toward the end of its life cycle, where it did catch up to Xbox 360. But overall, this is a strong console, and the way that they've returned themselves back to this company that's really a gaming company instead of just a multimedia hub is something that I really appreciate, and I really find that is unique to Xbox in this generation. Now, you know, it's really interesting to see how far Xbox One has gone in the past 3 years, because it's a story that very few companies can tell so well and just shift so quickly. That backlash just really reversed the policy on Xbox and really just adjusted the gaming landscape for years to come. I think that this was a solid thing that I don't think anyone really expected to happen in such a way. And if you expected anyone to say that, in May of 2013, that Xbox was going to reverse everything and they were going to do all of these things, remove all of this, and in 3 years have a $299 price tag, I think that people would think you were crazy. And how wrong so many people would have been. Guys, those are my thoughts on Xbox One. It's been 3 years. It's incredible. I still remember just being watching this thing as not on just on the outside in, like just watching it and starting to get used to the gaming landscape and gaming media overall. Guys, what are your thoughts on Xbox One? It's been 3 years. It's fantastic now. I definitely recommend going out and buying one. It's one of the top few systems I recommend to buy. Guys, comment below. Thanks for watching. I'm Brian Swan. Stay tuned for more.